Thank you. So this is a French-German rock, and it's not so obvious who is French and who is German because we swapped affiliations. So it's it's between 2 French and 1 German, and 2 in France and 1 in Germany, but the bisection is not direct. So reversal distance, that's a problem you've already heard about for strings, because we're here, with few blocks and small alphabets. The context, I'm at the end of this biology session, so I'll go quickly through this. It's a comparative genomic problem, so it comes with the whole bunch of motivation, which is to understand the history of evolution of genes, of evolution of species, and to track evolution events, and somewhere also understand the interaction between the genes. And the main thing we've got to know about rearrangement is that rearrangements can be of large scale, like we've seen on the previous talk. So reversal distance, it's the same as DCG for reversals. So one DCG operation, one reversal operation consists in reversing the order of the genes in a substring of the graph. And the distance is the number of such operations to transform one genome into the other. We've got some variants for this. The sign variant, we have some information about the orientation of the genes, and the reversal inverts the orientation. And prefix reversals have only one cut point, so the other cut point must be at the end of the sequence. So we only split a prefix. Okay, and since I want to talk about strings with few blocks or small alphabets, I've got to define what is a block. So given a string, a block is a maximal substring consisting of only one letter. So it can even be a single letter. And in signed strings, it's not so obvious how to define a block. So we can have a very strict definition where all elements must have the same sign. So in this case, we will have small blocks, but lots of blocks. Or more free definition where all the elements can have different signs. In this case, we have much fewer blocks. And since we are going to talk about FPT algorithms, we need to define our parameters. So in this case, the maximum number of blocks allowed in the input strings would be a good parameter. And we can also look at the alphabet size, because the alphabet size is bounded by the number of blocks and can be much smaller. Yeah. So the results in this field, we're not the first one to look at reversal distance, obviously. For permutations, that is, we've got no duplication at all. It's NP-hard for the normal distance. It's polynomial for sign variant. And if we look at the prefix case, it's again NP-hard for the regular variant, and there is still this question mark, which we would really like to answer, but it's not the topic of this talk. And for strings, everything is NP-hard. Even for binary alphabet, there's no polynomial term algorithm to get on strings, in the general case at least. So with few blocks, to the best of knowledge, we were the first to look at this case. So we came up with an FPT algorithm for the number of blocks, which works in the unsigned case. And for the signed case, it depends on how you define your blocks. So with the strictest definition, the FPT algorithm still extends to the signed case. But if we allow free definition of blocks, then it's NP-hard even for one block. That is, even on strings with unary alphabet, if only we play with the signs plus, minus, then it's NP-hard to compute the reversal distance. And we also wanted to look at the small alphabet case. Since it's NPR for binary alphabet, we cannot get FPT, but that's still we can get an exact algorithm in exponential time where the exponent is the least bad possible. So yeah, that's our results. Let me first present the easiest one somehow, preliminary results. And one which is going to be really useful is the diameter. So if we've got those two strings with b blocks at most, we know the maximum distance can be bounded by a function of b. That's quite easy to see. We just have to give an algorithm which works this time. And this can be done by grouping. If we've got two blocks with the same letter, we can group them into one with just one reversal. So it needs b minus sigma reversals to get to a string where all blocks with sigma blocks. And when we've got two strings with sigma blocks, we can do a regular sorting by reversal on permutation of these strings. And this takes at most sigma reversals. So b minus sigma times 2 because for each string, and plus sigma. That's our diameter. And we've got similar diameter for other variants, like the sign of prefix. So this exact algorithm in sigma to the n time, it's also easy to see. It's an idea which has been around for some time for different problems. It consists of drawing the so-called KLA graph of all possible strings over the alphabet sigma, which can be reached from our starting strings. And we draw an edge between any two strings if we can go from one to the other with one reversal, and finding the reversal distance is finding a shortest path. And the sigma to the n exponential factors is the size of the KLA graph, the number of strings we can reach. And last easy result, not so easy maybe, is the NPRness for the unary alphabet case, unary strings, which comes from reversal distance on permutations, on unsigned permutations. So we start with the permutations, 5, 8, 2, etc. And we replace each element by a subsequence, which somehow can only be matched to itself. So yeah, since it's a unary alphabet, I could write plus a minus a plus a minus a, but it's only plus or minus. So this S3, 3 is replaced by S3, 2 is replaced by S2, etc. We even make lots of copies just because to make the proof work easier. And yeah, it's got some nice properties like the reverse is itself, so we can transform signed to unsigned case. And somehow everything works. So if we've got a reversal scheme for this string, then we've got the same reversal scheme for the permutation, and vice versa. So computing the distance on the signed string is the same as computing the distance on the permutation. So it's NPR'd in both cases. Okay, now I'll present the main result of this paper, which is the fixed parameter tractability for the number of blocks. And okay, I'll do this mostly on this example. So the first step is to merge the blocks. So first thing, we forget about what are the contents of the blocks. We just remember which letters they contain, but not how many for now. And this is what we call the structure of the string. This sequence ABC, AB, A, CB. And now we'll guess the endpoints of the reversals which are needed to go from this string to the other one. So maybe the first reversal, we need to split between the block A and block B, and the other endpoint will be inside the block A somewhere. We don't know exactly where, we just know if it's inside the block or in between two blocks. And we do this again until we reach the target structure. So if this is the target string we want to obtain, then we stop here. And once we do that, we've got to keep track now of where do the letters go. So if we've got 3 A's in this block, 6 A's in this block, 2 in this block, we want to make sure that they all go to the right position. We want 6 here, 1 here, 4 here. And this is done as follows. We create a graph with one node for each block. We add arcs to keep track of how the elements can move from one block to the other, and with a source on target nodes. And this smells like a flow algorithm, and it is a flow algorithm. So now we compute a maximum flow. And if we manage to have a flow which covers all the letters of both input strings, so 3, 6, and 2 here, and 6, 1, and 4 here, then this gives us a solution. So out of the 6 letters which were in this block, 2 went to the left, 4 went to the right, and the 2 here matched with the 3 of this block, which became a block of size 5. Block of size 5 matched with the 1 letter which came from here, which made a block of size 6. So if there is a flow of size n, then this structure here gives the solution. Otherwise, well, the guess must have been wrong, and we've got to guess again. And so to analyze this algorithm, the first step is actually the longest one, if the number of blocks is small, which is just to read the sequence and match the blocks together. So that's linear, and that's trivially linear. And all the rest only depends on the number of blocks. So our search tree algorithm has a linear number of choices for each reversal we want to guess. Sorry, we've got to guess a linear number of reversals, and for each reversal we've got a linear number of options. So that's a search tree with B to some linear function of B branches. And yeah. And the verification afterwards, the flow algorithm is polynomial in B, because it's polynomial in the number of vertices and arcs on our graph. And it would also extend for the prefix variant, for the sign variant, or both. We could imagine it would work easily for DCG or transposition distance, but we didn't implement this in the paper. And so some nice, so first to recall what I've said, we've got the fixed parameter tractability for the number of blocks. So if we've got few blocks in the input string, at least we can do something, even though the reversal distance is NPR'd for all cases of, for all strings. And in the sign case, we can only have some tractable results if we consider the strictest definition of blocks. We cannot consider plus A and minus A to be one of the same block, otherwise it's already NPR'd. And some nice open questions we've found. First of all, can we have a beta bond for the diameter? So I gave 2b minus sigma. We don't have examples reaching this bond. And it could be only b minus 1, since the diameter for permutations is the number of elements minus 1. That could be. If it's not, then it would also be nice to have some b plus only a function of the alphabet. And the next question would be to have a polynomial kernel for b. It seems possible since we have fixed parameter tractability. But we don't really know how to achieve that, especially since the blocks can have size logarithmic in n. I mean, yeah. And can we do better than that algorithm? We know we cannot get can we do better algorithms for the exact case? Thank you for your attention.
Questions, please. Yeah.
Thanks for the talk. I had a comment and a question. The comment is, in your introduction, you said genomes are rearranged progressively along evolution, and there are strong proofs that you can have fast rearrangements rate in short evolutionary time, for instance, especially if you use some non-coding region as markers in your genomes. So there are some existing examples of that in mice, for instance. You have existing proof of that for instance, evolution in mice, inside the current mice genome.
Okay.
And the other question was, okay, if we start with a genome described by some markers, okay, and if you keep some markers out, you forget some markers, you will reduce your number of blocks. Okay, so it might be useful to have your algorithms. But have people look at the stability. Let's say you change slightly the data, you forget some markers. Do you still have at the end in your optimal solution common reversal then with a slightly different input?
Okay. For the first one, I'm not sure I've seen the question. Yes, there are some parts of the genome which can be rearranged much more frequently than others. But if we work with the whole scale of the genome, maybe we would have less rearrangement. If we consider all coding regions of the chromosome, I guess we would have a normal rate of rearrangements, wouldn't we?
Yeah,
okay.
we can discuss that.
Yeah. And for stability, no, it has not been looked at as far as I know. It would be nice indeed to check if anything would work with a few less elements, a few elements were removed, then do we still get the same scenarios? Then yes, that would be useful to know, definitely.
Typically, from the point of view of evolutionary biologists, this is really important. This is typically the first thing they ask when people build trees, for instance. They ask whether if you start with an alignment, you remove some columns, you lose slightly from data, do you still have the same type of trees? If your tree is completely scrambled, then it means your algorithm is very sensitive to the data in some way.
I see. Yes, good point.
Any other questions? Okay, then thank you very much again.